Man, I hate this weather. I really do. August is so boring in the southern U.S., but we're hanging on, and winter will be here, or even fall will be here soon enough. Yeah, just clear skies. Well, a little bit of cumulus out there, but we did get rid of that Canadian smoke finally. So just a little bit of high cumulus. Well, anyway, let's head to the maps and see what's going on. There we go. This is the latest analysis, and we're showing an old polar high across the eastern U.S. right there. So whenever we see this huge bubble of high pressure in that area, we're looking at northerly flow in the southern U.S. around Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama. That tends to suppress the thunderstorm activity a little bit, or at least relocates it down to the south. In Texas, it really depends. This is what we call a backdoor front there, and it's moving north as a warm front, and with it the moisture field, so that's heading up into Oklahoma. Now, if the pattern is kind of active and we have that backdoor front, that can produce thunderstorms along the boundary, but we're picking up kind of a deep southerly flow from the Gulf now, so we don't have that kind of pattern going on. So we're just looking at fairly quiet weather. Up in the northern plains, let's head up that way. Looks like we got a baroclinic low there in Kansas, right there around Dodge City, and a couple of other lows all the way up to the Dakotas. Now, when it's August, we, of course, are looking at hurricanes. So let's go ahead and take a look out in the Atlantic. We finally have a little bit of activity possible in the next week or so. So this is a chance of cyclone formation. They're only going for about 10% there. But we've been watching this for a while, and the GFS has been picking up on the possibility of an increase in easterly wave activity coming off of Cape Verde there. But where we really have weather going on is, of course, Hawaii. Got Hurricane Lane out there, and that's been quite a strong storm. You can see it's still Category 4. 11 a.m. Is that the latest we have? I guess it is. That's 11 a.m. Hawaii time, which should be about 3 o'clock. I would expect the latest to be coming out very shortly. But there it is, sustained winds of 130 miles an hour, so that's quite a strong storm. 949, that's not way down in the basement as far as pressure goes. That is, you know, in the 900 to 910 range. But 949 is still pretty respectable there. So anyway, that's heading northwest, and we got a couple of products that we can check out here. So let's head to, this is the Dvorak intensity, and this is one way we can look at trends as far as pressure and wind. So let's go ahead and run this. This is how it looked during the day. Let's see if we can get this going here. There it is. Slow that down just a bit. So what we're looking at here is infrared imagery, and the more concentrated the shades when you go up from these grays to the whites and the inner grays, that indicates a much colder top and very likely a stronger circulation, especially when it wraps all the way around. So earlier today, this is how it looked. This is going to be about 6 a.m. Central. That's going to be probably about 2 a.m. Hawaii time. And you can see that we had this very white shading almost all the way around and some traces of gray. But as we go through later in the day, see, it's looking pretty good there earlier, but towards the last few frames, we start losing that white. It starts becoming kind of, we get some weaknesses there in the northern part of that ring, and now the white is starting to go away. So we're seeing a decrease in intensity on the storm. Now, one thing that would be kind of interesting is to compare it to Hurricane Irma, and I've got that pulled up in here somewhere. Let's see, where did I have that? Oh yeah, it's one of these. Yeah, this is how Dvorak, or how Irma looked. This is that same Dvorak technique. This is Cuba down here. This was back around early September last year. And you can see that white all the way around the storm with traces of gray. This is all, you know, very specific temperature ranges. So we can use that to compare what's going on in the eye of Irma, or in the center of Irma. So going back to Irma, go back to how that looked earlier. has a very similar appearance there to Irma, right around that time. See, it's that white with the shades of gray. But it is on the decrease, and this is the overall trend of the storm over the past week, and you can see that it probably hit its peak about a day or two ago, but we're seeing that decline starting to take hold here. All right, let's see, track. Let me go back to that product. Yeah, there it is. Okay. Official forecast looks like this. So we're taking this more up towards Oahu. This is where Honolulu is, right about there. That's Honolulu. Molokai, and then this is the Big Island right there. So earlier we were looking at a track more like that, but they are looping that more up to the north. There's a lot of uncertainty as far as the steering currents on that storm, but the good news is it is going to be gradually decreasing. It's still going to hit the islands with some decent wind and some torrential rain there going into tomorrow. All right, let's move things along, and I've got a couple of forecast products for Hawaii. We're going to get to that at the very end of the program. So let's go ahead and look at the rest of the country. And this is the convective outlook there. Slight risk up there for the Dakotas and in Kansas. So this is typically what we do see in the summer. It's kind of active in the northern half of the Great Plains. As far as any watches, a couple of severe thunderstorm watches up there for the northern plains, and that's really about it. Let's look at the upper level patterns. Still got that split flow pattern, very strong winds up to the north there in Canada, and then the southern stream located right there coming out of northwest Colorado into the northern plains. And it looks like a little segment coming around the top of that ridge right there. Got the subtropical high right there. Let's see, let's try to find out exactly where that is. We're looking up here at 250 millibars. This is going to be up about 34,000 feet. That looks like the center of the subtropical high right there south of New Mexico, but I think there's a second center right in here. That's right over Texas, so no wonder we are clear, almost clear in this part of the country. Let's go down to 500 millibars, see how things look. Still reflecting that high pressure area there in Texas. Parked right over Austin in central Texas, and then looks like probably a second high out there south of Arizona. Let's go down to 850 millibars and see what kind of pattern we have. This is the low levels of the atmosphere. There's that deep southerly flow coming up off the Gulf, and we're even picking up a little bit of a low-level jet there. 55, I think that's 50 knots there at Dodge City, and 40 there at Amarillo. So a little bit of support there for strong storms in the central and northern plains there. And then we also need to look at temperatures, the temperature field. We don't often do that, but we are getting into the winter season, and that does become important. So what do we see here? Very warm 850 millibar temperatures. This is up at 5,000 feet, and you can see we're in the low to mid 20s. That's Celsius there, so that's going to be in the upper 60s or so. So very warm conditions in that area. And then we have cold air in the Great Lakes. We're only seeing about 10 degrees there in Michigan, 10 at Wilmington, and 10 in the Quad Cities. So that's going to be about 50 Fahrenheit up there at 5,000 feet. So in between, we've definitely got a front, and we're going to place that on the warm side of the gradient. Hang on, let me reset my tool here. There we go. All right. Warm front is going to be located, looks like something like that right there. Since this is an upper level front, we're going to go hollow with those symbols there. And then there's probably a cold front. It's kind of hung up in the mountains there, but it's going to be, this is just kind of a guess there. It's probably even further up north, so I might be inclined to go something like that there. So we would need to do some more analysis right in this area, and of course we can look at the thickness chart for some ideas as far as that goes. Up to the north there in Canada, a very cold blast coming out of the Hudson Bay region. Strong northerly winds up in that region, and temperatures -12 at 8:50 up there at Baker Lake. So there's no question where that front is. There it is. Very strong front coming out of northern Manitoba and Hudson Bay. Next is the thickness chart. And before I get into that, let me just check the chat, make sure there's no problems. Let's see. Okay, looking at the chat here, Erica Baker, Coffeyville, Kansas, 76/71, very humid there. Carl Berghoff and Funwood Tech, Dodge Vare. Is that a view from a TV tower? No, that is from a drone. That's our thing we do on the opening there. Thomas Copeland also here, and where in the Metroplex is this? That's going to be southeast of Dallas. Bobby Conway, low 60s in Greenville, North Carolina. Wow, that's very cool. Dial Wang, Weather Channel got the latest advisory in, 125 miles an hour, Cat 3 and 953 millibars. So it is starting to weaken Hurricane Lane there. It's boring in the UP. Shirley Keast, David Lumbert. Educational broadcast is one of my birthday gifts today. Well, happy birthday there, David. Bobby Conway, Atlantic might get going. Rising motion forecast coming in agreement. Indeed. Let's see, Willie Greenway from Georgia. Let me just kind of go through this road quickly. Brett Dean there in New Jersey. Saltwater fishing and 73 there at Tuckerton. Mike Estwick reporting 86 in Denver. Electric Dog tells us to hit that like button. Go 17. I'll have to check in on that. I was kind of wondering that myself. We're having a look at some other satellites for that. And yeah, lots of smoke and haze. Mike Estwick there. All right, let's go into the chart sequence. This is the thickness chart looking at kind of an average of temperatures with the red and blue colors, and then the black is the standard pressure. Those are the isobars. And we can see that very strong shot of cold air coming out of Canada right there, making progress into Quebec and right there around North Bay, Ontario. And then the tail end of the front looks like it's somewhat like that right there. And then we pick up the Pacific front, and that looks like it's somewhere in Oregon and Washington. Definitely some cold air coming south out of British Columbia. So I'll draw that on there. And we have our front in the Great Plains. Doesn't show up so well in thickness. Looks like a small trace of it, of the warm front right there, from Arkansas up to Kansas and Nebraska, and not too sure how that connects up with the system further up north, so I would want to do some more chart analysis in this area to see what's going on. Another thing we can do is look at a layer that's not quite as deep. There's different thickness products. Normally we use 1,000 through 500 millibars. That's from the surface up to about 5 kilometers. But for the mountainous areas, we might want to do 850 to 700. So let's give that a shot, see what that shows. And that might help us resolve a little bit of detail. Well, I can still pick up the warm front right in that area, Arkansas up to the Dakotas. Further up north, I might have to connect that up like this, maybe something like that. That's kind of what I'm inclined to do. And then the system further up north, I really messed that one up. Let's try that again. Okay, there we go. Somewhat like that right there. Anyway, yeah, there's the big polar high across the Midwest right there. That means stagnant. Go ahead and move on to the satellite. There's our visible satellite imagery. We'll go ahead and roll that there. There's that system there in the Great Plains. Towards the very end, we can see a couple of thunderstorms pop up in central South Dakota right there. we'll go in closer and look at that. And we also see a cluster of thunderstorms moving from southeast Kansas into Missouri. There it is right there, showing a lot of anvil. Let's see if I can draw that on there, if I can get my pen back. Yeah, there's the anvil right there. And that's moving towards the Boot Hill of Missouri. All right, we'll zoom in and see what's going on there. This is South Dakota. We're going to animate this and see how things look earlier in the day. So, yeah, starting out around 1 or 2 p.m. This is all mid-level baroclinic stuff right there, probably a little bit of elevated convection. But what we're looking for is this cumulus field. This is some destabilization, very warm temperatures downslope, and maybe some residual moisture in that area. And we roll that forward, and you can see towers going up about 2 or 3 p.m. And there's the first tower. Looks to be just northeast of Pierre. And that gets going pretty good there. So that would be your, that's probably what you would want to chase there. And then further to the west, these are probably a little bit higher based out around the Rapid City area. And I'm saying that because this whole area is a dry slot, and typically the dew points are kind of depressed in that area. Also, there's an absence of low clouds in this area right here. You can see that clear sky right there. So both of those things together usually means that the storms ingesting that air will be kind of elevated. So pulling that up to the current time, pretty good overshooting tops right there. Looks like southwest of Aberdeen. And the overshoot's not quite as impressive further down to the south, but a little bit of a flanking line extending down towards the Indian reservations in South Dakota there. Also, the monsoon going in full force in the Four Corners area in northern Arizona. And there's the animation of that right there. Most of it concentrated along the Mogollon Rim right there, but a little bit of activity up around the Bryce Canyon area. Looks like one little cell got going in Oklahoma. Let's see what happened there. Yeah, pretty good cumulus field there. Looks like a little kind of the nose of some of that moisture coming northward, and it actually got going out around the Ardmore area. Let's see if we can zoom in on that and see what's going on. Well, it does look a little bit fibrous there, so I'm not expecting like tornadoes or anything like that. However, I'm sure it's a little bit photogenic there. It looks like a little bit of a left split maybe way up here. Yeah, that certainly looks like it. Yeah, there's what it looked like earlier, just northwest or northeast of Wichita Falls. And around 5 or 6 p.m., one little cell managed to get going. Okay, let's see. And then we'll go ahead and look at Florida. Always active in that area. Looks like some storms up in the Orlando area. Probably a bad time to be at Disney World. And then further down to the south, looks like some cells out around just north of West Palm Beach. And yeah, it looks like a few cells going in that area, but Miami's staying pretty quiet about this time. And of course, Hawaii. So this is the infrared, and there's the center of the storm, tracking at this time to the northwest, but it is recurving, and we're expecting that up into the middle part of the islands tomorrow. So we'll look at the prognosis on that shortly. Okay, as far as soundings, let's look at those. This is what the Fort Worth sounding looked like earlier today. Lots of warm air around 850 to 1,000 millibars. This is the lower part of the troposphere. Pretty good lapse rates from 850 to 700, but just not much moisture. Let's see how things look for the evening sounding. Looks like a little bit of a loaded gun there, but the moisture is still lacking. So we'll do the parcel lift. That already looks like high base storms, if anything does get going. And then some weak Cape right there, probably about 400 to 500. And cloud base is about right there. And very weak wind profiles, so we're not expecting very much with that Ardmore storm. Look at a couple of areas. I guess we can go out to Hawaii. There's the Hilo sounding, and that shows moist conditions, saturated, probably overcast cloud cover in that area, and conditionally unstable. You can see that strong wind flow coming out of the southeast at 30 to 40 knots. Let's look at the Big Island. And very similar pattern. In fact, did I pick the right one? Okay, yeah, that other one, that was the Big Island right there. And then this is further north. This is northwest of Honolulu there. And we're showing the easterly winds at 30 knots there. And looks like a conditionally unstable air mass in that area. All right, we'll go ahead and head into the forecast. And usually we start out with Texas there, and we're not expecting much in that area. Looks like the model did pick up on that convection, kind of generated a little bit too far west around Lawton. But as you can see, the model kind of gets rid of that around 9 to 10 p.m., and I definitely agree with that. A little bit of overnight convection possible in the Fort Supply area, Woodward, Enid. And that's about it, just southerly flow across most of the area. Upper level patterns, let's check that out. Pretty good trough coming through the northern plains right there. So looks like Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin is going to be getting that tomorrow. And we see the subtropical high there over Texas. So for tomorrow, there's that trough moving into the Wisconsin, Illinois, and Minneapolis area. Still got high pressure there over Texas, and another trough coming in from the western U.S. associated with that system in that area. Remember when we did the surface analysis, we had something like that coming out of British Columbia. Then for Saturday, trough over the Great Lakes will continue moving to the east, affecting New York, Quebec, and Ontario there. Still more high pressure across Texas. That'll keep things kind of shut down. More clouds like you saw in the opening clip for this video. Just the same thing once again. And then going into Sunday, very impressive trough coming out of the northwest. Look at that right there. Very strong flow coming out of British Columbia, and a very strong wave up in the middle of that province there. And we'll check out, let's see, that's as far as that goes. Let me pull up the GFS and see how things are looking, because that does look pretty active there. You can see we've dropped a few frames there. Yeah, 16. I guess we can't load up these chart sequences during the webcast. Our internet is just a little bit too iffy for that. Anyway, I think we got most of the charts up, so let's see what that looks like. Anyway, if your video dropped off, that was probably because of us when we loaded that GFS sequence, so we'll try not to do that again. Okay, yeah, getting very active up in the northwest U.S. However, looks like those troughs kind of fill and just move out towards the Great Lakes. So looks active for the northern U.S., but not so much down south. That upper level high will be locked in over the southwest next week. This is on Thursday. And even towards next weekend, the 1st and 2nd, still got that stubborn subtropical high sitting over New Mexico. However, it looks like we do get a little bit of northerly flow in Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas. That could always, depending on how far we are from that subtropical high, that could help the sea breeze get going. So we'll just have to see how that goes. Generally, when that high does back off, we do see a little bit of an increase in precip in this area. But man, that high is really locked in there. There's the 2nd, and then for the 4th, it finally displaces into the central U.S. with the approach of that trough. And looks like it backs off into its corner once again for the 6th, so I think we're stuck with quite a bit of stagnant weather for next week. And we'll see if what we're looking at for tropical weather and precipitable water. This is always what we look at when we're anticipating the possibility of precip in August. So let's see what it looks like. Starting out, that's 1.5 to 2 inches, but not much help. It's all going north, and we're just locked out by that upper level high sitting over the area. All right, moving forward through the weekend, you can see that moisture heading up into the Great Lakes area, some chances for precip in that region, and another surge of moisture coming into Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas for Tuesday and Wednesday. And this is a little bit stronger. It looks like 2-inch amounts coming inland. And what I'm also keeping an eye out for is easterly waves or the appearance of a hurricane. Now on Tuesday, it was bringing a little bit of a tropical storm up into Texas. I'm expecting the model to kind of flip-flop on that, but let's see what happens. Pretty good feed of moisture coming in, so that might raise the chance of precip late next week. And other than that, I really don't see a whole lot going on. Looks like maybe one little weak disturbance for, let's see, around the 4th or 5th. But we're no longer, yeah, it looks like the model is no longer slinging that big tropical storm into the Gulf Coast area like it was. That doesn't mean it still won't, but it is backing off on that, and we'll just have to kind of see how things go. And the next big change that we would look at is maybe up to the north, maybe something up in Canada. Now you can see that there's this big high kind of building in behind this system right here. This is for tomorrow. So a little bit of cold air coming out of Alberta there, and let's see what happens. Cold air making it into the Montana and western Dakotas area. And then for Sunday, the cold air just doesn't make it very far. It makes it all the way down to Rapid City, maybe Pierre and Aberdeen there, and then it gets stuck because the deep southerly flow is hammering that warm front, that cold front once again, driving it back north as a warm front. So what's the next big change? I'm looking at heights out or pressure out in this area. Looks like a big 10-20 millibar high building in British Columbia for next Monday. And that sinks into Washington and kind of disappears around midweek. Southerly flow in full effect in the Great Plains. Looks like a little bit of a boundary for Thursday around Kansas. So it looks like kind of a rainy pattern for that area around midweek. And let's see what's the next change. Looks like another high building into the northern plains next weekend. We'll see if that makes it. Yeah, this one makes it all the way into the Central Plains. There it is for Saturday the 1st. And then we see this boundary stalling out around Oklahoma, the Red River around the 2nd. There it is right there. So precip chances will be going up next weekend for Oklahoma. Southerly flow starts building in once again. Looks like another high coming into Montana for the 3rd. And looks like most of that heads east. Looks like we get a couple of backdoor fronts there in Oklahoma, Arkansas, maybe down to the Red River, but it's going to be slim pickings in Texas. And that's about all I have there. So, yeah, in summary, just maybe isolated chances of rain down in our area, much better as you go north, especially up there towards Kansas and Nebraska. And Hawaii, yeah, let's check out Hawaii. I've got one product. Actually, I got a couple of them. These are the forecast tracks from the main dynamical models. And you can see all of them recurve the hurricane towards Maui. But not quite all the way there. A couple models cross the islands. Others keep it offshore. There's a lot of uncertainty with the track on this system. The steering flow is kind of ambiguous right now. But you can see the consensus of the track somewhat like that. And the official forecast going in line with that. And then I've got one product. Let me see if I can find that. Yeah, this is the HWRF there. Let me get that started. This is a window centered on the storm. And I'll pause this at the very beginning, so give me a second here. Okay, so there's our storm starting out this morning. Good 944 millibar center right there. And then as we go forward, we can see it filling as it moves north. 951 there for midnight. And then around noon, it's already filled to about 985 there, and that's barely a Cat 1 right there, if anything. But we'll still have that strong circulation there. We can see 50 to 60 knots sustained around the center. That's enough, certainly, for some scattered wind damage. And then the HWF, bringing that across Maui there, and then it goes for a 1-2 punch as it heads towards Honolulu there around Sunday. Yeah, it's going to be about Sunday if the HWRF pans out. Anyway, you know, it is pretty important to mention that we can't really nitpick these models because there's so much uncertainty. You know, you go from one model to another and they're showing something a little bit different. And there's no way to really know which model is going to win out. So all we can do is really go with a consensus here, and there you have it there. So anyway, I think I've got an intensity chart. Yeah, let me show you that. Almost forgot that. This shows you the decrease in wind speed that is being forecast. It's going to be dropping very sharply overnight. And then it looks like by tomorrow, they're going to be dropping under Cat 1 strength right there. So that should bring us down into the tropical. Oh, that's pretty cool. Okay. Yeah, you hover the cursor. This is a tropicalatlantic.com, and you hover over tropical storm there, and it shows the band. So that's pretty cool. So, yeah, we'll be dropping into that range likely by tomorrow afternoon. However, you know, of course, there is that threat there of heavy rain, and with the islands being in the just ahead of the track and to the left there, that's kind of a prime area there for hurricane-produced tornadoes. So that's another threat we would have to watch, especially when the atmosphere is strongly sheared like it is right now. So I would not only look at satellite and guidance like this, I would also be looking at the radar. That's going to be a big help. Any tornadoes that occur will be kind of isolated and very brief in transitory will be kind of concentrated in those spiral bands there. So anyway, you'll want to kind of keep up on the warnings with that if you're in the islands. Let me head over to chat. I'm going to have to skim this real quick because I'm going to have to go. I have to clean the house and get it ready for tomorrow. JT, welcome to the webcast. Where am I getting the charts? It's coming from different sources. I'm sure some of the viewers can help you with that. We've got a lot of regular viewers in chat. A lot of them come from pivotalweather.com. Others come from SPC, NOAA, and this one here comes from INCEP, ncep.noaa.gov. They produce all the numerical guidance, all the official numerical guidance for the U.S. Okay, yeah, I appreciate the comments there, JT. Thanks for the comments, Shirley Keast. And that's about all I got right there. So let me get that closeout music. Forgot to bring that up. Closing music. There we go. All right. Anyway, thanks for joining the webcast. We'll be back on Sunday. And if there's anything about Hurricane Lane left, we'll cover that. Other than that, hope you all have a good evening. Take care, and we'll see you on Sunday. Bye-bye.